right there, the guys that played in the charity event, those are all old school guys. And basically what it is that when we started streaming, it's like, okay, well, let's bring like a show to it. And so that's what we all
we back up
to do was to
We're back a dinosaur tale.
So yeah, I think that my big concern is that people think that you have to do that and get in a mindset to think, well, there's nobody at the table that's talking in character. And then you automatically switch off, and then you've got it's like, oh, it's not a great group. It could be a spectacular group. You don't have to have people in character for it to be fun. I just think it's a really dangerous expectation for new players to have that this is the way. And I don't know.
Yeah,
it's like, what do? You have like an advertisement at the beginning of your stream, not all games are this way, sort of thing.
Yeah. So who else would like to take that one up?
I'd be happy to.
Excellent.
So I think that it kind of leads into another thing, which I found to be really helpful, which is session zeros, because I think that just as it's important that the DM or that the players are playing in a game that is going to be the most fun for them, I think that it's the same thing for a DM. And I can tell you that, at least with my experience, what I find to be the most fun is when my players are in character and they're using voices and they're doing first person role play. And so what I do now, anytime I have 2 more campaigns that are starting up soon, and for both of them I do session zeros where I talk to people and I say, this is my game. We do heavy RP, we do first person role play, we do voices, and we even workshop characters. So like my players work with me to create those characters in those worlds, and I think or those backgrounds. And I think that's a really important thing, because not every table is going to be the same way. And so I know that if I go and I play at a couple of tables, if I play at Mikey's table, it'll be completely different experience than if I play at somebody else's table, and that I have to know who that DM is and what they expect and how their table is going to be run to play it effectively as a player. But that when I am a DM, I need to make sure that my players know what I expect from them, and that all of them are comfortable and happy with and want the kind of story that we're going to involve in together.
Let's tie that one into right now, and that's a great point. Someone asked about player character creation too. So I know you said that you have session zeros and stuff. Does as we're going through this, because I want to get as many questions in as we can from the audience. What do you think? Like Anna, do you along with the first and third, do you tie in making characters up right there, or do you let your people bring them too?
For me, it's been I don't run games online, so at least not yet. So for me, I usually want to have like a one-on-one with each player, developing the character and kind of getting, because then I can also feed them information about the campaign and stuff that their character should know and the other ones. So I can kind of spew in put in some kind of content and intrigue and whatever into it at the get-go. So that's what I like to do. And I also like to create a bunch of characters that are fully made, so they can just select one. That way I can kind of get them to tweak it a bit afterwards. So I usually start with that. But when it comes to the first third person or like using your voice acting and stuff, then for me it's kind of difficult, especially coming here, because
Jeez, there it goes again.
So to speak, and then that becomes a problem. But sometimes I've actually used it. I've used when we kind of portrayed the
I think we're down
the barbarians up in this snow, the Kruskis and the Frustis and up there. I could use like Scandinavian, like Swedish, Norwegian kind of say. So sometimes it can be an asset, but I'm more like the third.
Something's going on.
Any style is great, right? If you would come up with a character and drop it on the table and play, I think that's why session zeros are important. I definitely workshop very heavily with all my players. And not just to, you can give them tidbits about the bits of the world that their character may know. I also think it's really important when you have a super narrative-based campaign to get them thinking about the like the actual character of the character rather than like my race and my class. I ask all of my players to pass the Plinkett test. I don't know if anyone's heard of that from Red Letter Media, Mr. Plinkett, but he uses it to discuss like Star Wars characters. But it's helpful. It's like, can you describe your character without talking about their like race, class, weapons, what they are, and their role in the movie or in the game, right? Can you actually define what your character is? And if yes, then you have a good character. If no, you probably need to do some revisions. And I think that also discussing on the whole point about like the voices and third person versus fourth person, obviously every table is going to be different. In our sessions, if you've watched us, we're like full blown first person where everybody's using voices, we're getting into it. And I think that when everyone fully inhabits their character, it really allows us to get incredibly emotionally involved. And we have scenes where like we're all at the table literally crying, crying like babies. Because of the scene, and we're all are like living it in the characters, and I'm having to do it as like horrible, evil characters or sympathetic NPCs, and that is a great deal of the fun for me. And I think that a lot of, but I also think that there really is no wrong way to do it. But at least for us, that's how we do it. I don't know if we'd be crying our eyes out in certain sessions if that wasn't the
personally
case.
attacking me?
No, I'm not even referring to last Wednesday. We were all crying several sessions previous as well. So
I could have swore I heard him say Nikki, but maybe
we're all guilty of crying on stream, all of us.
Wow.
That's true.
We've had a fight on stream. No, we didn't. That wasn't on stream, actually. No, that was a long time ago. But we haven't had we've had some issues, but we haven't had anything that like that yet. But that's fantastic that you get that into your characters. That's awesome.
I think some of the funniest moments when I think back in gaming years and just think about just the things that really come to mind as the most entertaining, fun moments is always when been related to some sort of role play character, voice interact, throughout. I just think that those are what stick out to me in the mind, not like how many points you have or whether you win, the technical aspects. It's always.
We've had some. We used to sit down and just and hang out and we just used to sit down and hang out and have just talk over beers about game events with characters instead of talking about real life events. We were talking about D&D guys, back or guys and gals, because
at the behest of some of the others that were with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brian, I think you're the only one that hasn't filled in.
Yeah. Yep. So I personally, I do voices when I try to do voices. I don't know if you guys caught a couple of them on the stream last night. I tried to do a couple of them. I would love to do my Bollywog here, but I involve standing up and hopping back and forth on feet, and I cannot do the voice unless I do that for some reason. However, since we are public play, there's a board game night that goes on the same night as D&D. It's really, really loud in the comic book shop. So some people do voices. There's one year where a guy purposely did a really bad British accent, and another guy at the table thought it was like a fantastic accent. We're like, dude, you don't understand. Like, he's trying to do it. It's supposed to be a really bad one. And we have guys that, we be in public play, we try to be accepting, and we don't really pick and choose who comes. It's, you come and you establish yourself and you get on the table. So we have guys that are very socially awkward, that they try to role play, but they just can't get into it. I'm actually really excited. One of the guys is normally very quiet, very timid, kind of socially awkward. He's fantastic when he comes, he'll have these great one-off quips, and he's really soft-spoken, and you won't quite catch him, and the game just stops you, huh? But he's going to be the voice of the party this time around, so it's going to be interesting to see this guy go from this very sheltered, quiet player to being somebody who's going to be focusing more on role-playing.
Well, I want to say something, Brian, that I think Anna could say as well, because we were both there last night, how impressed I was with your DMing last night. So it was fantastic. Hey, Bamboonsky. A recent joint follow of a streamer that we have hooked up with, and he does a lot of different cool content. Thanks, Baboonsky. Really appreciate it, man. So, anyone else want to jump in on this one, or do you want? I got one that's kind of deep, and I want to go. Sid, we asked it, and I really want to get to this one. So let's. what? How do I put this? So, say one of your real players is having some real life personal issues or personal trauma or something, and it comes out during the game. What do you do? What would you do in that situation? Or how would you handle it? Frank, I'd like to go with you first because we asked that question. So,
Wow.
has that happened?
So that's
Without specifics.
That's a deep one. So in my DMing, no. On Nightheart Gaming, yes, for one of our other DMs, and it's really, in the end, you could say all kinds of things about it being tricky or difficult, but it's just open communication with your players. When you start, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what kind of campaign it's going to be, to really make that apparent. If people are not expecting you to run in and kill women and children, you shouldn't be running in and killing women and children. If there's domestic abuse, if there's alcoholism, if there's other things that are an element to your campaign, you should hash things out a little bit with your players. And that's more than a session 0, because the game continues and the story continues and you write elements in. And if you don't do that, and sometimes you forget and something comes up and you do end up triggering a player, then you might have to pull out of the game. You might have to stop what you're doing, handle it. I mean, you're still playing for the players. It's a story that your group telling, but if the story's too deep or you're too invested, like has been said by some people, if you're in character in the moment and you're actually doing the voice, and so you're characterizing it now, so suddenly, this abuse is happening to you, or this incapacitation in some way. It becomes something that you might have to pull out and talk to your player, let everybody kind of touch base and find out if you go further without it, or you go back in and readdress it in some way. Play the happy tune and have a moment that's taken back from that.
We never had anything that bad, but I'll tell you, Mark knows we had some guys that were troubled. Brian knows we had some guys that were troubled. All of the players who were online know we had some troubled players, and it's hard to. Some things we just had to nip it, and this goes back to even online gaming, like in World of Warcraft and stuff too. You always had to, some people, you really had to go and address it directly. I agree, Frank. If you didn't address it directly, you're just going to let it fester, or something's going to happen, and it's. But does anyone else have any experiences from that, and what they have done or what they would do? Anyone want to take that up also?
Well, I've had to tell people saying, hey, this is a family show. Just because there's young people nearby with who are gaming in a group and they get a little bit fired up about something and want to, maybe speak inappropriately and
in character, I got it.
Broach on topics, whatever. I mean, sometimes not. Sometimes they're just frustrated and angry because they didn't, something, rolling the dice. But it's like, whoa, this is a family show here,
Well, I think that's something that has that's really helped me, is just reminding that being a dungeon master, a lot of it is about giving grace. And so when people, if there's some bad things going on outside, and then it kind of comes to the game, and if it does affect the game, just always never assume malice, always give the benefit of the doubt, and communicate. And having discussions with your players or with your DM after the session, like, hey, this didn't feel so great, and the DM or the player might not even realize it. And all it takes is one conversation to prevent sessions and sessions and sessions of frustration and things that could potentially build up and lead to tension. And so I think that those open lines of communication, while still as the player is giving the DM grace and then as the DM giving your players grace, I think is really critical for a super healthy table.
I think it's more of an issue with groups that are new. Like Jay, you guys, you've known each other for a long time. I've had extremely long groups, and we were all friends. We knew each other. That's not so much of an issue there. And if it is, because we know each other, then it's addressed right away. I think when you have a group of newer players, people that don't know each other as well, you're getting to know each other through the game. I think it's real important that when something happens, it's like they were saying, address it right away. And remember this, if you're a player and you had an issue with something that happened, you need to go and take it to your dungeon master and you need to talk to them. The answer you get is going to be the answer about whether or not this is the game for you, if these are the people for you. If it's a serious issue for you and you bring it to your dungeon master's attention and you get blown off, you just got your answer about this group. And so then it goes to you and it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't be in this group anymore. Maybe I should go find a different group that I would perhaps mesh better with. A good DM, though, and I would have to say probably 90% are going to say, sorry, had no idea. Let's try and make sure that this doesn't happen again. But it's real critical to nip it in the bud right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I've had that happen with recently, well, within the past year, I've had 2 instances of that.
Okay.
And it became an issue, wasn't addressed, and then you're talking sessions and sessions later, and then something comes up, and it's like, well, if you'd mentioned this, then I could have talked to that player.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's something along these lines. It's like, so I could have said something or what have you, but
I want to tie this into real quick. So I get another question. Max, then Aluminum Monster said, did this ever go into then it became an issue out of the game? And I know the answer to us is yes. Between Bill the Master Crafter and the other Bill, which is no longer plays with us, the no guy picking his nose, that guy. That's So we've had people in our game that don't play anymore because there's people who just don't get along well with others, and there's people that it's not for them, and that's okay. I mean, that's life, right? I mean, that's just the way things are. But you got to address it immediately. So I'm sorry for interrupting there. Who else wants to? I wanted to get another question.
I think a little bit of a unique insight on this, and that's because I've worked inside of some facilities that handle mental health, and where somebody has some deep-rooted issues that go on. And you go through actual trainings and so forth, and dealing with people that are in more of a crisis type of a situation. And so one of the things I think that is very important, I know that I lay down as a ground rule. It's not for everybody, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that everybody adheres to it, but one of the main things is we never allow evil characters to come into play, where it can really introduce a lot of things that can really take control and trigger somebody. Because if you allow yourself to do things that an evil character would potentially do, then you open up that actual door yourself, for starters. Secondly we are kind of blessed with myself and Tim and Jay have knowing each other for so long. We're friends outside of the game as well, and the best of friends. I mean, these are guys that I've known for 40 plus years. So even though I'm in a completely different state than they are, we still can call each other at any time, any moment, and know that we'd be there for each other at any point in time. It is really about getting to know your players first and foremost.
Yep.
And the thing is that we're all human. There's different things and different experiences that people have had in their life. And part of the game allows you to kind of let go of some of those things that you deal with as well. Allows you to explore different things of your own psyche that you wouldn't normally produce in real life. So I think that if I was to give a suggestion to other DMs that are watching and so forth, is just make sure that you understand that you got to take the time to get to know who your players are, and really try to stay away, at least early on, from anything that can really introduce that kind of a trigger. Now, anything, obviously, a sound, a smell, a story, and so forth can lead to somebody actually having a triggering event. And honestly, it's not an easy thing to deal with. I've seen people, I have personally have people in my life that I've seen that actually happen to, and it's for what you don't even think. It's just like the simplest thing in the world, just a word that can happen, or just an appearance that can trigger somebody off. So take the time, no matter what. If it actually happens inside of your game, stop it right then and there. As everybody's been saying, nip it immediately.
Yeah.
Don't, you're better off stopping the game and not going forward and giving the opportunity for that person to either collect themselves or give them the opportunity to leave gracefully out of the mix, because then they still have to face everybody after it's all said and done. And that's not the easiest thing for them to do either.
I know this was a deep question, and I appreciate you asking that. Am I saying that right, Frank? Is it
Yep.
okay? I really appreciate you answering that. Does anyone else want to give input on this, and then we'll move
Yeah, I
on
have
to this?
one thing that I usually do is that often you can kind of sense that one particularly kind of common scenario is when you make the characters powerless. You take them hostage, or you kind of imprison them and stuff. And so and the other one is kind of relationship, when you want to kind of flirt with the character and stuff like that. Those are the two obvious ones for me. So when I'm running games, I usually first I usually hint at it. So I don't ambush the characters and then take them prisoners, for instance. I always try to make it the player choice to go into that basement and screw it up, so to speak. And also when it's about to happen, to kind of stop the game and say, if anyone has any problem with it, just realize, so you step out of character before you do something like that. So you kind of prepare the players and also hint at it before.
I think super bad things that are going to happen to characters. It's great to have it like a movie where it's kind of like a cut scene. You don't need, those details. It's like in the classic plays and Shakespearean plays and the Greek tragedies. It happens off the stage, but everyone knows what happened, and it doesn't diminish the drama. But you don't need to get into the nitty-gritty filth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That said, I have used that nitty-gritty filth on third parties to get the party super angry at villains. So I've kind of described some scenes that are super bad, and it just infuriates the good guys who really want to kill the bad guys. And of course, I did that on purpose. But I've never had any flashback from it because I kind of knew people I was gaming with. So
very, very great discussion on this one. We want to lighten it up a little bit.
I'd like to say too, for anybody who's streaming, when I started Tales of the Savage Land just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I actually have a rated R. I have it come up before the stream starts to let people know that the material that is going to be discussed in there, it's because it's got a lot of horror into it, and I'm going to be descriptive in that some of those horror aspects.
It's savage.
I have that boom right before it's savage. You got, and I did that on purpose so that to let the
super
community know. Yeah.
Excellent. Instead of that intended for mature audience button that comes up, right? I mean, you get on Twitch. I apologize. It was a while, and it was when we disconnected. This question came up. What is what's a surprising thing that your party did to you when you were DM that threw you for a major loop?
I got this one here. So one of my recurring PCs I had is Alden Fizzletink, who is this weird mad scientist gnome wizard, and he created what he calls Fizzletink Sticks of Instant Magic, which is essentially dynamite. And he liked the party, and so he gave the party some of the Sticks of Instant Magic, and so they had to go and infiltrate a hill giant lair. And so one of the guys, these hill giants had a whole bunch of goblin minions that were cleaning their toes and wiping their butts and whatnot. One of the guys did disguise self, turned into a goblin, or not disguise self, but one of the illusionary spells, turned into a goblin, strapped all the dynamite on his chest, and went in as a suicide bomber, and actually managed to not die, and took out one hill giant and 10 goblins all at once.
You never saw that coming.
No, that was to see somebody do a suicide, and then they tried to relive it a couple times, and it never quite lived up to the first time. But it was just I told him, dude, this is what's going to happen. You're going to automatically take, max damage, but you got to, if you pass, I will reduce it in half for you. And he wound up passing it, and it's just, it was nasty.
Good one. I'm going to tell one real quick, and that was during our mega stream. And I hope, Tom, you're still on, but what you did to take out that beholder and change the entire course of the fight threw me for a loop and a half, right? Oh, man, he teleported behind, feeble-minded it, and took out a major nasty in 2 rounds that I didn't even really get to use. So thank you very much for the follow. We appreciate it. By the way, all right, so everyone on here, all the channel logos are on the left. Wicked Studios, Nightheart Gaming, Anna B. Meyer, Legends of Vantress. They're all, if you can't find it that way, they're all in my follow list. Just click on it, please. Everyone here deserves a follow, okay? So when you get off here, please go and follow all the channels that have participated tonight. I think this is, we're trying to work up a community and all grow up together. So please, just want to put that out there since thank you so much for that follow just now. So anyone else want to take that one up? The group throwing you for a loop?
Yeah. I would like to. There were some instances where I have these NPCs and I have these, great visions of their death, either for drama or them like getting corrupted and having a boss fight and they get killed and all these different things. And there have been multiple instances of my players thinking very creatively and using their abilities or their items or what they have and what they gave them in order to prevent that. And Nikki actually was one of the people that did that and saved a critical NPC. And I had no idea. And because it was so creative and so good and they rolled really well and whatever, I gave it to them, even though I had initially had the situation where they were very likely going to die. They love the NPCs and they want to save them. And so I think that the stories turned out for the better. And it's been great to keep those NPCs in the game.
But you didn't see it coming.
No, I didn't see it coming at all.
That's so awesome.
I like to kind of sometimes like write descriptions or like death scenes or something when I kind of have a sense of what may or may not happen. A lot of times I scrap it, but if it does happen, I kind of like to just get a sense so I'm not fumbling over my words. And so I'll write out this like big, death scene, have some last words or something that's kind of cool and epic. And it's like, oh, well, I don't need that. And so, but it's cool because the players are telling a better story than I am, which is awesome.
How about you, Nikki? How about you on that one? Done it? Your group throwing you for a loop before? A crazy one? You're like, oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Actually, one of my favorite ones, as I've mentioned, I have a mystic in my party, and so I'll be completely honest and say I don't really know what he's capable of. I read the Mystic UA when it was first originally published, and there's a lot to it. So they were at an encampment with guards who they thought were corrupted, and they didn't do any reconnaissance. So they went in with just the information that the townsfolk believed the guards were corrupted. And they see the guards coming out of the cave, and they have this dark sorceress in the cage. And the cage was a cage to prevent magic because she was very powerful and she was actually the bad one. And they had captured her and were going to take her back to town. They just assumed that she must be good, they must be bad. And so the Mystic has this thing where he can trade places with someone. So he teleported himself into the cage and teleported her out. So all of a sudden, unsuspecting to me, I now had the baddie in the middle of my players.
Awesome.
I thought she was in a cage where she couldn't do anything. And so that was quite fun, and things happened from there. But that one shocked me.
It creates a memory, and you're never going to forget that. You're never going to forget. No. Yeah, that's what's so awesome. About
I got 2 words for you, Jay. Merlin Spoon. So I'll let you tell the story from your perspective.
The Boggle. We got 2 of them. The orc, right? So yeah, it was Knick-Knack.
No, it was
Spooter. It was Spooter. Yeah, the Halfling Guardian. The Halfling Guardian, Will, has a Merlin spoon, and they captured an orc, or they wanted to interrogate the orc, and orc was being tough, and the group said, he said, you're going to tell us what we want to know, and then the orc goes, I'm going to tell you shit. So the Halfling Guardian took the Merlin spoon, and it creates really warm cardboard gruel, stuck it right in his mouth, stirred it up. And that was and that was when the orc said, I'll talk. This is stop.
Waterboarded him with oatmeal.
Yeah, oatmeal, yes, absolutely. So how about you on this one, Frank?
So I don't have a great answer for this one, to be honest. I mean, my players throw me for a loop every time we sit down at the table. Pretty much. They will do something that I am not expecting. And I don't. There's been crazy epic moments that I didn't expect him to solve something in a certain way. I guess one in particular is many years ago when players were high level. We were 3.5. We were already crunching numbers and going into epic levels, and I just had to push. I had to push the nuke button and go, well, I don't know, maybe the Tarrasque will work. And
Oh my!
and it took pretty much a lone druid to figure out how to use miasma to choke a Tarrasque out. And I'm looking at rules, going, oh, sure, okay.
And you're like, oh, that's wow. Yeah.
So I mean, surprise me all the time. Surprise me in epic ways all the time as well. But
it's a great feeling to know that you are not like the DM. We are not the smartest people in the world, and that our players are actually most of our players are smarter than us, which is good. I mean, that they can take themselves out of a situation. So, anyone else want to jump in on this one who has not done this? Anna, Anna.
I can jump in on it. And for me, it's more of an asset than a problem because I run kind of very sandboxy games. So I expect and want, and I see it as help when the players just come out with, oh, we could do this. That's kind of awesome. And just basically ambush me with some cool ideas or whatever. I kind of like that because for me, it's an asset because then they are driving the campaign forward. They're driving the story forward, and I see that as yes, I can embrace it. But I've seen DMs that run kind of a scripted, kind of going from scene to scene campaign, and then it becomes a problem when the characters kind of step out of the storyline, so to speak. But my campaigns don't have much of a storyline that way. I just have a bunch of antagonists playing around in a sandbox, and if they go this way or that way, I just want them to go somewhere, so to speak. So if they try to circumvent, come up with new ideas, or kill something off quickly, that to me is progress. So I try to use that, and
awesome.
I kind of love it. Yeah.
Anyone else want to jump in on this one? I got another good one.
I got one, and then
you have to depart. I know.
Yeah, and I'm not
it's
going.
It's not Game of Thrones. He has an actual game, a D&D game. It's not Game of Thrones. It's a D&D game.
No. Or so you know.
Yeah,
likely
exactly.
Story,
right?
likely story.
I did it last time. It's okay. It's go ahead, Will.
So this is from the Bandits campaign, and it's Adam's first character, Silverwolf.
Mm-hmm.
He's very stereotypical background thing. Oh, his family was killed by the Iusians, blah blah blah. But he played it well throughout the game as we were going on. So like his interactions with humanoids and what have you, and they went to Kinmeet, which had been turned into, it was an Orc Central place now, and it was a collection point for slaves, and they went into this place, and there's kids that are slaves behind barbed wire fences and what have you, and they stirred up the hornet's nest, and they were getting ready to leave, and he walked out into the middle of the town and just told the guys, I'm not leaving here alive, and he killed his character. And so I mean, because he was in character, and he looked and saw what was going on, and he couldn't justify any way that his character under those circumstances would leave. And I mean, you were talking hundreds and hundreds of orcs were in the city and were coming down on them. And he stood there and he killed his character. And I didn't expect that. I expected to, give some kind of, because he'd had some slight brushes before, but nothing where it was sitting and looking him in the face, his character.
Well, how many did he take out?
I think 15.
Thanks, Legend. Thank you.
So... yeah, he took out, and what it was is he went after, he locked on to one chief, and he fought his way to the chief and killed the chief, and then he died. So that was, I didn't expect him to, there's a bit of metagaming and whatnot that goes up. Well, it's my character. I don't want my character to die, so on and so on. But yeah,
salute.
Yeah, right. So
awesome.
And with that.
Well, Will, thank you so very much. Enjoy your game tonight.
Yes. Have fun watching Game of Thrones.
No,
yes, I will not get back on and put spoilers, I promise.
Yeah. I'll see
All
you.
right, thanks.
See you
fun.
soon. See you soon.
Great
It's
game,
nice
Will.
hanging out with you.
Bye.
Go ahead, Tim, to finish this question up.
I had a player when I was in college, and a fighter bounty hunter at work, and he had captured some tough guy and was interrogating, and I was like, this guy's highly encouraged by his conditioning from his evil superiors not to divulge information, and he'd get up from the chair and come over, and I would be the prisoner, and he would interrogate me like with a holding a pen up to my throat. Tell me what it is, whatever. And he would be so animated in doing it. I'm like, dude, this dude is caving.
Well, man.
And so that was one of the things that kind of blew me away. A number of times it would do the role playing thing. It was really awesome. And the other thing is they blew me away by getting themselves all killed in one of my.
TPK, total party kill, huh?
Yeah, the High Secret Order incident.
Oh, well, of course. We won't go into that tonight. Yes, High Secret Order witches, if anyone's ever read about them in the old Dragon magazines, are kind of nasty, and they can easily wipe a party on their own, definitely. Fake Gamer Gil has a great question, and then I want someone from the DMs here to come up with one. And I think this one is pretty much tells a story. How did your group form, and how do you keep people coming back to play? So many games seem to fall apart so quickly. Who wants to start on that one?
I can jump in here.
Go for it.
I'm very fortunate. I think that our group here at Legend of Advances is very fortunate. Is that I think that you guys seem to be the same way. Is that we're just a bunch of like real life friends that just love playing D&D together. And whether or not we were streaming, we would be playing the same campaigns, telling the same stories, and that is really the best part. I think that a lot of groups on the question, like a lot of groups might be people that are either they just meet at a game store, or they meet online, and D&D is very emotional and can get super invested, and so sometimes tensions can rise, and if you don't have a strong friendship, that isn't going to last. And also I think that after about 5 sessions, people have character ADD, and if you're not super invested as a group of friends, then that can also fall apart. And so I think that just that at least that how our group stays together is that we're all just a bunch of best friends playing D&D, and we would be doing that regardless, and that's how we choose to spend our time.
Character ADD, that is a great way of describing it. That was good.
And I think that a lot of, and so sometimes, I'm not feeling, I don't really, I got to miss this session. I got to miss this session, because you care less and less. And the idea of the new character starts to formulate in your mind a little bit more. And then are you going to try to suicide your character? And then, or are you just going to try to find another group?
Let me say a big positive for their channel. The viewers know that they're having a good time together. And I see that. You feel it. Right? You feel it in your group, and it bleeds out to the viewers, and that's the way people hold. That's the way you're gaining viewers, is by everyone sees how much fun you're all having together. It's awesome. You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
No problem. No problem.
And I guess I will jump in then.
Yeah.
Since, I decided to start playing with or DMing because Mike would constantly say, "I'm forever DM." And I thought to myself, well, I don't really like to play in the Feywild. That would be kind of fun. And I'm like, well, that's kind of my wheelhouse. So maybe I will offer Mike a campaign, and then he can not be forever DM. We played, kind of dragged in one of his friends who we didn't really know yet, but Derek, who's in Feywild on a regular basis and is a guest on Prime on occasion. And then Maya, who is my best friend of all time. And we dragged them in and started playing, and it kind of went from there. All of a sudden we were streaming, and I don't know where my life has gone. But it started with simply that question of, I'm going to try to do something nice for the DM that has provided me with such an amazing story.
Take away guilt is a powerful motivator.
Anna, how about you on this one?
I'm probably the last person to give any advice, because the last 10 years I haven't had a proper, or 12 years. Well, moving from one part of the world to another kind of breaks the bonds a lot, so to speak. But note that that's been my problem. I haven't had a kind of organized group to play with for years. I've played with. I have to run. I played in other groups online mostly, and then some organized play. But to run my Greyhawk campaign, it's been one shots now and then. And I ran a campaign locally at a game shop here for like 3 years or almost 4 years. But the problem was that players came and went, so then it kind of fell apart because the new set of players had no clue how the hell this started, and it kind of fell apart a bit. So I have no good advice. I used to be where you were, Jay, like 40 years ago when we started gaming for the first like 10 years and then almost 20 years. But after that, it kind of fell apart.
You were talking about playing like for like 4 days straight and stuff.
Oh yeah, what we used to do quite often was that we took a week of vacation, because in Sweden you had a lot of vacations. So we took 4 or 5, or sometimes even a whole week, and we played 5 or 6 days straight. We had a cabin somewhere or whatever, and got together a summer week or whatever, and gamed. That was it. Or we did winter weeks or something like that. Set in someone's basement for like 4 or 5 days straight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brian, go
Sounds
for it.
awesome.
Yeah. I can't hear you, Brian.
Forget the unmute there. Yeah, being a public play, people just come in and they join, but we do keep the table static. So like the group that I play with currently, I think this is like our 3rd year of having the static same 7 players plus myself. We have 2 guys that kind of switch back and forth whether they're playing or not, because they're pretty busy guys. But like we have gone from this meeting in a comic book shop to, we hang out, we do once a month at somebody's house versus the comic book shop. And then, part of me is like always like, oh man, I'd love to take it out of the comic book shop just because it's so loud and time constraints. But like, there's so many people you get to meet.
Holy shit, Jeff. I'm sorry for swearing on the show, but thank you, Jeff. Sorry, Brian.
No.
Holy jeez.
So just getting to all those extra people that you wouldn't have got to meet, it's just fantastic. And being a good DM, I guess just keeps them coming around, so I don't have to worry about them leaving. Oh.
Well, no, but playing in a comic store for 3 years with the same group of players is an achievement. It's a serious achievement. I'm going to head up everything but the rip head to Jeff on it. Thanks, Jeff. Jeff is Mark's master crafter, by the way. So Mark and Tim, let's team this up because we're all in the same group together. What do you think about keeping this all together and keeping some of the other fringe people together? Go ahead.
I think the
Thanks, Glorious.
The players and being interested in what they're interested in doing in their characters and kind of that is one of the benefits. I mean, that's one of the reasons why. I think DMing is part, like, you got to know the rules and be able to manage things and all that, but it's also part art because it's sort of a performance art, and you're considering what your friends want to do and the kind of things they want to do, and you're open to ideas because someone has some crazy idea about a character type or a new class or something like that, and it's keeps it fresh and interesting, and so it's considering what they want plus your flavor of gaming. So it's kind of nice because you got friends who you don't mind spending time with. That's a big one. The one time I played at a comic book place, there was a dude there who was such an a-hole that I went twice, and I'm like, this is just not worth the time, and that was it.
Well,
the DM was good. It was just another player. I probably should have talked to the DM and said, this dude is no good. It's either him or me.
What's amazing is that I can play in any game you DM, and you can play in any game I DM, right? For the most part, due to time constraint. I'm just saying
even other game systems, because it's
got
a story and people and in situations, usually bad ones, because adventures are crazy.
Yeah, so I know Sprocket's going to go crazy great on this when I say this, but Tim runs a great Aftermath game, Sprocket. So Aftermath is crazy, and Aftermath was FASA before they did BattleTech and all the other stuff way back in the day. Yeah. So, but it's fun post-apocalyptic occasionally, once in a blue moon. Frank, how about you on this one?
I know. Well, I don't know how I retain players.
That was awesome. That's the quote of the night. That's like on the level of I hate fucking monks from last time from Skagith. That was the quote of the night. So God,
I've got nothing really to offer except for
The beer.
trying to be open to them, which Tim has already said, right? And it's their game to play, and my unending enthusiasm for DMing this game. You know, it is what I never try to portray for any moment that it's not what I want to do. Even if I'm having a bad morning or a bad game start, which rarely happens as soon as the game starts anyways, because I really do want to do this.
Yeah.
But I think just the enthusiasm is contagious for it, right? So people know that you're in it, you're for the game. Like, wow, how can this person have played for 40 years or whatever I've played and still want to play 3, 4, 5 games a week and be the DM? Must be something there.
Yeah.
And leave it open for the players.
Well, and I think we've all here have kind of proven ourselves by just building up it's friendships mostly. It's what it is mostly. It's friendships. Someone, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say at the end of the day, I think that it's just what we do as friends.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make a difference what it is. That just happens to be what it is. And I think we just look forward to the stories that we end up telling. Just being able to share these kinds of experiences, just like we're doing tonight, is rehashing like old things that happen, like as if they happen in real life, in real history. It just gives that opportunity to kind of weave that storyline and get others interested in it.
I mean, it's a great point, Mark. We still tell stories when all of us got in a car and drove down to Fairfax, Virginia, where Mark was in the summer of '87, and everything that happened there. And it's still, see, Tim's already laughing. So, yeah,
I think it's a really interesting point that I forget. Like, isn't there some study that shows that the things that you do playing tabletop and RPGs get stored in your memory banks in the same place and way that your real memories do. So you're not sitting, you can we are the Legends of Avantris crew. We sit down and we talk about, remember when that happened and that happened. Yeah. You're not thinking I was sitting down at a table in this city, rolling dice, eating Cheetos, Doritos. You're not thinking that. You're like, I was this heroic character and we killed this vampire or a black dragon Dracolich. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you're remembering as a group. And that is why I think one of the reasons why I personally believe that D&D or other tabletop games is the best hobby that you can do with your friends, because I don't know any other hobby that strengthens friendships more than actually sitting down and telling stories that feel real together.
Well, just rub it in more that my best friends won't play. All right.
Hey, I have a best friend who doesn't play, and he makes fun of me every day. Right, guys. Right, Mark.
Best friends are for.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump on that because I have two things to add to that.
Go for it.
Well, the first one is the game allows you to build rapport to a lesser extent than a real, because I was in the military and you have rapport built from dealing with hardship and things like that. But it lets you build that rapport without putting your life at risk and having really high emotional moments, low moments, and all that. But it allows you to build that rapport, overcoming a challenge. The challenge is in our minds and imagination, but it still lets you do it. And in that way, it makes a big mark on you in your memories. And you remember that, and that's why you reminisce on those things. And because it seems real, because it's not real, but it's real in your mind because it's imagination and creativity, and it it just is is locked in your memory. I don't know the psychological term for it, but that's one of those things why we do this for so long.
I have another question for me, but I want to see if any of you have a question. If you do, please bring it up.
So actually, I have one that kind of segues it from what we were just talking about.
Okay.
So if you were not doing D&D and role-playing games, if that wasn't your hobby, what would you be doing? Now, I realize it's 9:15 East Coast time, for some of us. That may take some thought to, after a long day, but
Yeah.
So we can't count computer games that are playing D&D games. So
no,
either.
no.
I-
Just
I
what would
could-
your other hobby be? What would you be
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
I could probably answer that. I will write books.
Okay.
At least try write books. I might not be able to publish them because they might be that bad, but at least I will try. Definitely. Yeah.
I agree. I'd have to find some way to channel my creativity. And, before I discovered D&D, I was jotting down notes for novels and stories and then just scrapping it because I felt like I didn't have an outlet. And then once I discovered D&D, it's just, there's all of that creativity it's an amazing outlet. So yeah, I think that writing would be mine.
I think Mark knows what I would be. I'd be in a... Go ahead, Frank.
I think I'm going to take the easy out on this one. I would be a musician. I played in bands for years, and it was it's the only thing that relates or compares to D&D, to having those epic moments that Tim was talking about, to having the stories that you can go retell and rehash. It's still a shared experience with a crowd of people. So it might be cheating a little bit to say it, because in the end, it is actually the same real thing you're doing, but with a slightly different angle on it. And I know for sure that's what I'd be doing. But my life has revolved around D&D since I was 6 years old. So it's almost unrealistic to even envision a world where that's not my hobby.
Okay, Nikki, how about you?
Well, I kind of do my other hobbies well, D&D. I'm a seamstress and a leather worker, so
cool.
I would probably just do more of that because I would have more time to work on those projects than
That's
I do now.
awesome.
Hmm.
Brian, I don't want to know what you do.
No, so here's the thing. I didn't really start playing D&D until 2012.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd probably play a lot more disc golf during the summer, probably snowboard in the winter.
He's not from Michigan or anything. Disc golf.
No, just how many Michigan beers did I drink last night?
Oh my gosh, man. Anna was so kind to you last night. Hey, he's just having fun. Oh man. So you know what I'd be doing? I'd be doing my other thrill of life, since I've had all my injuries from sporting events. I'd be at the poker table.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
How about you,
It's
Tim?
not creative, Jay. It's not creative.
It's not creative, but it's very profitable. So, or it
And
could be.
not for everybody.
How about you, Tim?
Maybe for you, my friend.
I'm scared what Tim's going to say on this one. What would you be doing?
I would shoot guns more. I'd shoot my bow and arrow more, and I would do more swordsmanship, and I'd add Brazilian jiu-jitsu to my repertoire.
Yes. What is your martial art that you are a swordsmith or in?
I'm in the Association for Renaissance Martial Arts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and what he
longsword. I only rated on longsword.
What's
so.
your he had to fight 100 people one after another, right?
I just fought for 1 hour.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, well, they just
happened to be 100
A bunch of people, everyone, come in.
every minute. Yeah, someone new came in. And they had to fight them. Yeah.
You have to win like 75% of them. So
pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So
good times.
Yes, I played a lot of Texas Hold'em. I played Omaha High-Low and all that stuff, Richie. Yeah, I'm still pretty good. I played in some pro events in Atlantic City, but I got away from it. That was early 2000s. I would do that in D&D too, but then when World of Warcraft came, it was just too much. So
I did bring 2 sharp swords once to the D&D group, and expecting that they would be received with a lot more interest, but it was received with just fear. So I didn't bring them back anymore, just to show them.
Because you have
wielder, not the actual weapons.
Why don't you tell them the video you have of chopping all the limbs off of the deer with the angel sword? And that's why.
It was a legally bow hunted deer in an overpopulated area, so
I understand that, but I was like,
and I did do a test cut with a single hand sword. And actually, it was shocking how easily it severs limbs. And so when you look at the Tapestry de Bayeux, if you're familiar with the Bayeux Tapestry, there's a lot of battle scenes with severed limbs. That's legit.
Yes. Thank you for that, Tim.
You're welcome.
Yes, and yes, absolutely.
Western wasn't meant to spark that much.
It's okay. It's absolutely okay. All right. I have a question now, and I'm sorry that it's only going to be for some of us. The streamers, I want to know this. Do you feel like streaming all those nights you have to stream because you have it scheduled? Like some nights you're like, oh man, I got to do this. I mean, I really, because when we used to play D&D, we used to get together at odd times, but now we stream but we've always played every Thursday night. I was just curious on that one. I know that's a quickie one for just a couple of us. So what do you think, Nikki and Mikey and Frank on that one? I know Anna's doing more and more streaming too, and sometimes you just don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but for me, it's I don't run games. Thankfully, I sit and do my maps, or I talk about Greyhawk. So that's simple. So I have easy streaming for me. But sometimes it feels a little bit like it takes away time. But it's fun too. It's great. Yeah.
What do you guys think on that one? Everyone else?
Yeah, I do think that it has an effect on our schedule. I know that for me at least, there have been times where it's like, oh, I just don't feel like putting in the work, or I'd rather go do some dungeons in World of Warcraft than make sure that I'm ready for a session. And I feel that with streaming, it kind of forces you, especially as a DM, you no longer just have the expectations of your players, which, should be more important. And you now have an audience that, you want to make sure that you show up for, because, you have people there who might look forward to watching you all week long, and you don't want to last minute be like, hey, we weren't feeling it. Like, that's not a good feeling for people who are watching you. And I think that it's made me a lot more, it's made me take my campaign a lot more seriously. It's made me take the game a lot more seriously, and it's made me put more value on my players, and realizing that, if I feel that way about the people who are watching us, that I should feel even more so towards the people who are in the game with me.
What do you think, Frank, on this one?
So I've pulled the curtain back a little bit. You know that the setup here that I do, it's being a lot, right? I'm hiring a camera operator to come in. I have someone sitting behind a PC. Never am I thinking I don't want to do the game, but I do think I don't want all of the stuff sometimes. I don't want to put my players that I've asked, which are also friends, to come in, show up an hour early before the game even starts to make sure we get light checks and mic checks and make sure that we're communicating with the camera operator. And we know, if there's any strange terrain, if there are any problems with someone sitting, or if someone's having an emotional problem and doesn't want to be on stream or something that night, or they're having a day of it, right? So I always want to play the game, and I always know that when we get started in the game, it will be a good thing. It's a happy thing with friends that you end up working through, even if it's not a happy game. But the effort that goes into it, sure, there are days I feel like, oh man, it's a lot of effort. For the big streams, I have the once a week Fantasy Ground stream, which is much simpler. It's more laid back, and I actually just sort of breathe and I play in that one, and I breathe and relax and enjoy it. No matter what, I know I can just sit through it. But the other ones, it's like Nikki said, right? There's expectations from players that have to show up, and from people that are watching, and crew that have expectations and things you're building on, and it's just a lot of work. And sometimes you just don't want to do a lot of work. But the game itself is always fun.
Yeah, it's a lot more work.
Sometimes you just want to be in your PJs.
Yeah,
but that's why. Oh, sorry. I would say that ties into one of the key aspects when you have creative a job, meaning I need to do it basically every day because that's where I get my money from. It's like it's very important to make sure you stay in the mood, so to speak. So I have to try to run a life cycle that makes me want to go in and do my maps and do all the stuff that I need to do in order to get the results. So that means that I have to go out hiking. I have to do a lot of stuff. I have to have one day away from my computers, etc. And I think when you start streaming, that means that affects the rest of your life, because it's to stay in the zone and do things outside of streaming and gaming. So you want to come back to it. That I think is key to figure that out.
Mikey, what do you think?
And yeah, so I mean, I think that all of us that stream, we know What can go wrong will go wrong, and how many times you have to deal with video problems, audio problems, and obviously scheduling a bunch of adults all sit around a table and roll dice and do funny voices is also a huge challenge. But I honestly, even though with all of that, I think that my game has been enhanced a lot by streaming.
I agree.
For several reasons. It's so humbling, the fact that we have people that actually care about, I call it like in my shitty fan fiction part of church stream, sorry, but like the fact that people care about the stories that we tell is so humbling, and it's so incredible that, like, I obviously want my players to have a good time, but we're basically every Tuesday, Wednesday, and then, a lot of Saturdays and Fridays, we're inviting hundreds of people to sit at our table with us.
Yeah.
And so, also wanting to have everyone have a good time is amazing. And also, I think that it also helped me in my prep, where there are so many times where I'm like, oh God, I am not ready at all, but I have to DM, I have to be ready. And it's some of those last minute eurekas that I've had where I'm literally sliding into home base that have been some of the most powerful or memorable sessions, where that feels really good, that oh my gosh, I can improv, I can come up with these last minute things, and also forces me to be ready every single week. And I also think that because it's hard to schedule people, if we didn't have the stream, if we didn't have a schedule, like, would we be playing D&D as much? I think we'd still be playing D&D, but it's also a great reason for us to see all my friends every single week and play my favorite hobby.
That's
so
a great
it really
point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Mark,
so it really is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I never thought of it that way. Mark, you want to tie this one up?
Yeah, so I think my viewpoint on it is a little bit different, because most of what we do from a streaming perspective, honestly, it's just an extra. I don't look at it as that it is something that is I don't want to put it. We would still do it no matter what, but it's not the main factor. The main factor is that we're getting together to game, and we just happen to be recording it for people to see. So, frankly, it doesn't really matter to me whether I have 2 viewers or I have hundreds of viewers that are looking, because we're still going to go and enjoy ourselves no matter what.
And it shows, and that's why people like what you do, because it shows. I want to give Frank credit for this. Frank called us the MST3K of the D&D world, and because we're always talking about something else. We're always getting off. We're talking in the front when the beginning. We're talking after it ends. And that's I love that, Frank. That was a great.
Which I love. To be clear, it's very welcoming.
Well, thank you. Thank you, and I'm glad it has not become too theatrical for us, because that's not what my players want. So I want to get a Sprocket asked a question. Oh, can we all go to 10? Can everyone go 30 more minutes? I want to ask that. Is that okay? Is everyone good? Well, thank you so very much, Sibby, for that cheer. So we'll go 30 more minutes, and then we'll go to 10. I just want to make sure we're okay with that, because all right. Just want to make sure. Sprocket asked this. This is a quickie one. Whoever wants to take this up first. What's your favorite game outside of Dungeons and Dragons system or whatever? Good one.
Specifically, tabletop RPG, or are we talking about just anything?
Yeah, it could be anything, but a tabletop RPG or a style or something. Look at Tim laughing.
So I absolutely love Gloomhaven.
Okay.
I have the physical copy. I played on Tabletop Simulator. It's a fantastic game. It's like, if I can't get a D&D fix, it at least will give me, like, if I want just like some tactical combat, but not have to deal with the RP and that kind of stuff, not have to have a DM. I think Gloomhaven's probably my favorite, game. So, currently.
So I'm going to ask you a question. You think you and I could do a Saturday Night Special with a Gloomhaven game?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks. Like that answer.
Tim, you sat there. You watched Jeremy and I play it one night.
Yes, I did. I was very intrigued. Tim.
Yes, other game systems. I have immensely enjoyed Gamma World. Oh yes, go back there, man. I also have enjoyed. Not lately at all. I enjoyed Shadowrun in the early editions, and then I really, really have enjoyed and still enjoy Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
Yep.
It's the kind of grittier, little bit more realistic, if you could say it, a little bit more familiar, because it's a little more linked to like medieval, early Renaissance Europe, kind of the way its feel and grit and how insignificant you are is in the game, and so I enjoy that.
I want to shout out to Low. While you're doing that, Low 505 has played Gamma World streamed. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Tim. So we actually have someone who streams Gamma World.
And of course, I like D&D a lot too.
Yes.
So I have actually gamed with my daughter. She's 17. She's actually played Gamma World, Warhammer, and Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, and Aftermath, of course, for the post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, there you go. Low.
Your turn.
Yeah. So I'll go next. Aftermath.
I've also created an unyet played version using the Aftermath rule system for MechWarrior.
Really? Wow.
My friend. Yes. Be afraid.
Yeah, I am scared. Aftermath and MechWarrior for me. We play BattleTech. We've actually streamed BattleTech, and that was fun. We'll do that occasionally, once in a blue moon, just to throw a little wrench into things with their mind. So, Frank, what about you?
Well, I'm going to out myself a little bit here.
It's okay.
Because there has never been a time where, honestly, someone has said, what would you like to play? And it hasn't been D&D. If I'm playing another game, I'm thinking of playing D&D, and that's a little strange to say, but I know that other people don't work like that. They don't like that. And I have friends and family and loved ones that like to play other games. So I will play board games and games, but in the TTRPG space, Star Wars was really back at the same time GURPS, that system, that version of Star Wars, and I forget, that was a fun RPG to play.
Oh man, I love
GURPS was good back in the day.
We were doing Edge of the Empire for about a year or so, and that's, if we went to a tabletop RPG other than D&D, it'd be that.
Fun stuff in there.
Nice.
Can I throw something out? I'm sorry. This touched something in my experience with, at one point in time, my grades were not so good in school, and I was pulled off of role-playing games. I was not allowed to play. And I actually started secretly writing up my own Star Wars art. Just thought I'd throw it in here, so I feel you.
Yeah. Mikey, how about you?
I admit I haven't played any like major systems beyond D&D besides things like Honey Heist, Tactical Waifu, Everyone is John, like little one-sheet, fun one-shots. But I will take the opportunity to shill my favorite board game, which is called Root by Leader Games. It's the Legend of Evangelist crew plays it a lot. It's a asymmetric victory point style game where a bunch of cute little woodland critters are slaughtering each other for domination of the forest. And so that is what I play when I get the chance to play more tabletop.
Like bunnies and burrows?
Basically.
Sorry about that.
And Frank, I don't think that it's really that concerning or different, because I feel the same way you do. I don't play anything else other than D&D. I've played MechWarrior on occasion just because that's what we were honestly playing as a group. But I'm a lot more of a board game enthusiast than anything else. Catan. Now, to a degree, interestingly, we've started playing the actual D&D board games, Waterdeep and so forth. That it's,
Lords of Waterdeep's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just usually explaining what everything is and how to pronounce everything, because my other players are not D&D players. Yeah, if it's not D&D, I'm not playing it. That just isn't really fun, or I'm thinking about playing it.
Right. Anna, how about you?
The only thing that I used to play a lot of things back in the day, but then fantasy and D&D became the mainstay, so to speak. And I still consider Pathfinder just a version of D&D, like the other versions over the years. But there is one game I played like about 10 times the past 6-7 years that kind of really stood out to me, and that was Fate. And Fate game, because it was so drastically different. It was no kind of crunchy mechanics and no leveling or nothing. It was just sitting around, spinning up the story and coming up. So to me, that was kind of a very interesting, a super creative outlet with not much gaming at all. It was just, yeah. So that struck me as interesting. I never played Fate in a fantasy setting, but I'm intrigued to figure out and see, is it possible to play Greyhawk using Fate rules? Would that even be conceivable? I don't even know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
because I mean, we have people playing Greyhawk with the cipher system that they have.
Yeah.
I know. So
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine that's
Yeah.
definitely.
So that's the one thing that kind of hit the nerve with me. I didn't have a clue. I went to Orcon some years ago, and someone said, "Oh, do you want to sit down and play Fate?" I heard about it. That was it, and we played the game, and I had an awesome time. It was fantastic.
So Anna, check out. There's a gaming system out there. It's Fate based that is called the Dresden Files. That is
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah,
really, really good too. There's a board game for it, and then there's also an RPG for it.
Cool. Yeah.
Excellent. Nikki, to finish this one up. Oh, Tim's on off.
Yeah, I've only ever played D&D, and
Okay.
I'm a creature of habit. So when I find something I like, I tend to stick to it. So
That's
I
okay.
don't see a reason to veer out of it.
Awesome. I mean, that's you know, and plus you don't have the tire tread wear that some of us have. Not even
I forgot
close.
to add though something, Jay.
Oh boy, go ahead. By the way, see, everyone see on the right the shit-eating grin smile? That's Tim. That's Mr. without the beard. That's our critical hit. So whenever a critical hit gets rolled, that's an emote. The Tim shit-eating grin emote comes up. So
You're welcome.
yes. Go ahead.
Call of Cthulhu also for some of the heebie-jeebies. I mean, that thing is just, the better you get, the more insane your character gets. And Father Phileas Fergus McPherson is
Insane.
got a lot of problems. He got a lot of problems.
He's more, yeah. I can imagine.
It's a great game.
Yeah, considering Tim has character where he rolls a 20-sided die and that determines which character, which personality the character is that day, in D&D. So that's yeah, I can see that absolutely.
Just Murdoch.
Yeah, just Murdoch. Do you all have a question? Does anyone else have a question? I have a real good one, but I want to give you guys all an opportunity to ask a question if you have one, for as a DM group. Okay.
I have a question, actually.
Please do.
When you're sitting down to plan out your campaign and the broader story, how much do you guys outline? And do you build an overarching story, the main conflict, before you even start the campaign? Do you build out actual narrative arcs? What is your process for writing that story?
Wow.
Ooh, that's deep.
That's a good one now.
Let me take the first on this, because I am a shallow prepper. I literally spend 2 hours a week prepping because my players don't ever do anything that I expect them to. So I skeletonine some bullet points. I'm like, here's some things that might happen. And then from there, I just throw it against the wall and we see what happens.
My friend, flexibility.
Yep.
Now, on the reverse, I have story arcs that have not been completed that are 20 years old. So we have stuff going on. We have villains. We have you know, everyone remembers Salem Made Me Do It, where he found a crown when he was very young, and then 15 years later he put the crown on and became this crazed megalomaniac and tried taking over Greyhawk, and you know all the. So I really go long-term story arc because the campaign's so much in depth. I'm not talking about notation wise, but you know, I try and plan out what I'm doing a couple months in advance for each group, and try and make, you know, interconnect it and throw a little bone in there and do some crazy things here and there too. But yeah, so it's a lot of long-term planning on my end. So
yeah, I think I'd actually do a mixture of both. So a lot of it really depends upon the length of the campaign, for starters, and how much your players are actually vested into the storyline. I like also doing a lot of side things that are just more spur of the moment, as well as just trying to get the characters to interact with each other and be that, you know, kind of being that catalyst behind it. I'm well known for driving characters together in more of a romantic relationship. I actually have, we'll see, for those that tune in on, not this Monday, not tomorrow, but a week, my group that is playing, there's two characters that absolutely despise each other and love each other at the same time. love to hate.
That's awesome.
Can't live without each other, but and it just takes just a few words just to get them both started.
Tim, what about you?
I from start to finish, in the campaign I started, I had a reason why they all came together. So it was kind of like first level characters recruited to basically go into the bandit kingdoms to do basically behind the lines operations against, you know, the bad guys there. And so I basically determined it was a little bit more military, I have to admit, even though I wasn't in the military at the time. But so I established who's controlling regions, you know, the main characters, their goals, orientation, what their goals were, what their bosses had told them to do, so they knew what they had to fake, and kind of how the logistics and things worked in the system. So, you know, the good guys were going in there to cause problems and all that, and then I had to, you know, I'd already kind of determined the capabilities of everyone around, and could react to what the characters, how successful or not they were. And also, like Mark, I had stuff I threw into the sides also.
Let's tie that into your macro, because I remember all the different political things, to Anna, because she's macro too. So go ahead.
It's kind of funny. Tim have just explained to me why I do what I do. So it's awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. Now you explained to me why I do this. And I'm probably the most stupid planner ever, because I spend hours and hours. That's how I go into mapping, making these stupendously detailed maps and stuff. I make details of everything except the stories. There's no story whatsoever. I just detail all the things.
Anna,
yep.
Anna, a good operation.
Yeah.
Can be displayed on a simple map overlay.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's
well
the thing.
done.
All the actors and all the background info and all the intel and all that stuff, and then I just let the players loose.
And you need that for the sandbox method that you're talking about. You need that.
I'm
a fan.
Yep. So I spend hours and hours of useless thing. Yesterday, when Ryan's awesome game, he came up with a flower, and I instantly spent half that evening thinking, but that's awesome. I need to do something with this flower. So I came up with an awesome story and how it works in the wild, and all this kind of fun stuff that I put in there. So the players might never ever use it, ever go close to it, and so I'm terrible at that. But some players love to play in my campaigns. Some players that just stare at me like, what the hell is this about? So so it's kind of, so prepping, I do a lot of prepping, might not do prepping the way it's supposed to be done.
The sandbox game, I think, is benefited by players who have a goal in mind for their character.
Yep,
that's true.
Yep.
I think.
Nikki, how about you on this?
Explaining it for me.
I am quite a bit of a hectic DM, so I think that I drive both my players and my fellow DMs crazy, because I have a canvas bag that sits next to me when I DM that's filled with loose leaf sheets of paper, some of which have full paragraphs and a narrative written on it, some of which have a couple of quotes, maybe one name with no description as to who that name belongs to, what the NPC's like, etc. So I rifle through the bag before we play, and in front of me I have a sheet of paper that I kind of write down all the important things, and then I go for it.
That is, but see, you're like the Bill Murray of DMing, right? So you're like Bill Murray in Caddyshack. I'm sorry if that's way too old for you, but you know, you are the best. No, serious. You're the improv, which is a great trait. It's a great trait, right?
Yes, yeah. Kind of.
It
and
is.
I have like 3 apps on my iPad, and each one of them, they're writing apps. Each one of them has different bits of information in them, and I have like 6 different notebooks that have information in it. And I just kind of throw it all together.
And your style, you've been doing it for years. So your style's going to develop more and more too, and that's cool. I mean, your players love your game, and that says enough. That's all you need to know, is your players love your game.
I'm sorry, I was laughing so hard at Jay talking about being old. That was
I'm sorry about that. Frank, how about you on this one?
Well, a lot of this is going to sound strikingly similar to Anna. I mean, to be honest, it's not my story. It's never my story. It's the player's story. I build the world that they interact in. I build events that need to happen. And I don't necessarily even say this event happens exactly 1 week from now, unless it has to. I build the world and I build ideas about this needs to happen. This geopolitical region is this person's doing this person's doing this. And then when the players play, I just pay close attention to their backstory and their story, and I start weaving that in, right? I hook in their backstory and let them tell the story. If I hear something very interesting, I go, oh, that would hook in with what I was thinking about when I thought about how this counter, this baron or this kobold or this whatever that's in the world that I built in this area, that ties in well with that. Let's loop that in to tell the player's story. And they're just playing in my world.
Yep. Oh, you said it wonderful, Frank. I totally agree with you. Yep.
Oh, that was it. That was definitely a very intriguing question and round on that one. I'm
Thanks for
glad.
answering.
Yeah, I'm glad to. Yeah, because I've said this multiple times tonight. Everyone is different in planning and style, and how they start the game, how they finish the game, combat. I mean, everything's it's that's the amazing thing of the game itself. And D&D is just how it's your game to run, and you make the decisions on it, and you interact with your players, and you grow together in the game system, and that's what's so wonderful about the game. So does any of you have a question? See, I have time to plan this out, because I keep these running notes from each show, so on this, but
I actually do have a question.
fantastic.
So, as a DM, do you prefer telling homebrew stories or modular stories?
Great question. Great
Mm.
question.
You mean
Who wants to
modular,
start?
like published modules?
Yeah, published. Like
Or yeah, whether it's Wizards or you find it on Drive-Thru RPG or whatever.
Dragon Magazine, or the modules scrolling to the left that we have going on, all the old classics in the old D&D world. Who wants to go first?
Homebrew all the way.
Yeah, but you weren't doing homebrew, and why don't you explain that experience? That's important for Nikki to hear.
Oh, I mean, so yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, I tried to do. So we did Storm King's Thunder couple 2 years ago now or something like that, and the players just didn't get into it, and I threw plot hook after it, and so I like that one. I just completely took off rails and said, "Screw it, we're done with this," and I just took them to the Shadowfell and just completely homebrewed that. And so the next time we went around, we went to Tomb of Annihilation, and I didn't homebrew that. I didn't even add a whole lot. I was like, I'm just going to run this as close to the module as I can. And like the difference I saw in my players' enjoyment was significant.
Yeah, and it's good to know that was the and explain this too, Brian. Explain the difference between what you saw between Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms too. It's very key that I think why people have really loved Greyhawk so much. If you could explain, yeah.
I mean,
you said to me.
I didn't. Did I say something to you about it?
Yeah, about about saving the world here and there and every.
Oh yeah,
adventure.
yeah.
Go.
The
It's
campaign-
important. It's an important distinction.
Yeah, so like with 5th edition, the campaigns have become always save the world. Here's our mega bad guy, but guess what? You don't actually kill that mega bad guy. You get like help from the powerful friends of the super friends of Pharaoh. That's what like it's like, hey, you're gonna do this, but you're gonna get help from the super friends, and it's not really. It's much like World of Warcraft, where your character's involved with these major plot points, but your character's not actually ever the one pulling the trigger at the end.
True, and that's a very vital distinction on why homebrew doesn't have that problem. Exactly, in homebrew. So, Anna, what do you think?
For me, it's simple. I don't run modules. And that's kind of makes another reason why I'm so stupid, because I'm probably the one that read every Greyhawk module ever written once and never run it. I run one exception, Hamlet. I run Hamlet once. That's it. I never run any of the other ones, but I read them all. Yeah.
I own Hamlet now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm kind of So for me, it's I read them and take the NPCs and places and stuff out of it and put in my campaign if I like them. And
Tim, how about you, Tim?
I like I've done both. I like homebrewed a lot. I like modules, but I bend them to my will, so that they fit what I need. And I've been surprised by players. I was surprised by my daughter where I was using the Standing of the Hill Giant Chief as a place where there's a secret scroll they need to get a hold of located in there. And instead of trying to take it on, she just avoided all the giants, got into where it was at, stole it, and I managed to get out with minimal combat, and they just left. So I was like, all right. But she had an enjoyable time, and it was a good win. So she avoided the whole, killing all the giants, because that was not necessary for her goal. So, and there's been a number of times when that's been similar.
Cool.
So the module is there just as a tool for you to use and be changed and meddled with and make it fit what you want. It's just a time saver if you can read it and use it and then make it fit what you want. That's the important part of
Mark,
a module.
how about you, Mark? Because you've been doing some modules lately.
Yeah, so I would agree with Tim. So I like the idea of using the module as kind of like a quote unquote straw man. Use it to build the framework of a good storyline, but if you're able to take it and integrate it into something it is that you have of your own arc, actually I've been able to, with the group that I'm using now, bend a 5e module, the Horde of the Dragon Queen, into something that we actually did as a crossover, specifically to Dragonlance and Greyhawk itself. And interjecting some of my own characters into it from Jay's campaign and into what this group is currently experiencing. So I think it's there are some writers that are out there that I think obviously are better than others. Obviously, we have all the classics that we use. It's a lot easier for us to use 1E, 2E types of modules to kind of augment what we do. Homebrew is really great too, because it gives you the opportunity to kind of flex your own mental muscle to I don't know, add a little bit of character to what it is that you want the world to be. But by the same token, also requires, in my opinion, a lot of investment in time, and unfortunately, you don't always have that time at your disposal.
Good answer, Mark. Frank.
Yeah, so I've done both extremes. Even recently, DM some Adventurers League games at conventions where you start at X time, you end at X time, and then the next table starts right after that. So you have to make it to the module. They're very on track. They have to be on track. You have to keep the players going, and I think it has a place, and it's fun. It's not my favorite. My favorite is homebrew. But I will read modules, and I will, like everybody else has said, I'll steal from them shamelessly. And the closer something is to my heart in a module, the closer it will come out being the module that was written. But it's very rare that it's that exact sort of mash, unless it's truly like an organized event game.
Mikey, how about you?
I have only ever run homebrew. All of the stuff I've run, besides like silly one-shots, have been in my own setting of Evantris. Then I think a lot of the stuff that we do on Legends of Evantris is in there. I just love being able to craft the stories and kind of plot out all the arcs. And I think it's actually because I'm just terrible at running modules. There was a time where we tried to there was a blizzard, and there were only a couple of us. I tried to run Prince of the Apocalypse, the 5th edition module, and I'm just like thumbing through the book, and I don't even know what I'm supposed to improv, what I'm not. I don't know, am I going to say something that's going to totally break something down the line? So I was so bad at it. That was the last time I ever tried to run anything modular. But I mean, I just love just telling the stories and doing the homebrew. And so I think that, for our Legend of Advances crew, that's been what we've done. Although Nikki's actually going to be running Curse of Strahd this autumn. So
wow, cool!
It's the first module on the Legend of Advances channel. So
I'm really scared.
It would be fine.
Nikki, there's a highlighter and a lot of underlining, and for different reasons. So read this, highlight it, underline it for DM only.
Plus, is Azalin in that one too, Strahd? I mean, I'm a Ravenloft guy when it was Ravenloft the module, and not a whole world. But I mean, it's just they got the development of Strahd itself, and it was brilliant. You know, that Barovian feel to it was just there. It is. Whoops, there's Ravenloft and Ravenloft 2, both on my wall of fame. And
Almost Lovecraftian.
yeah, we Lovecraft. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff there. So for me, to finish this one up, I did a lot of modules back in the day when they were the classic 1E, 2E, but I've gotten as we streaming especially has led me to almost all homebrew. I will throw in an occasional classic, just a rehash, like say, let's do this. Now, I don't know if this counts, but I have like Carlos Lysing rates modules for me for my campaign. So I don't know if and then I modify them pretty, but so I don't know if that counts or not. I guess it's a mix. And I love his stuff. He's really crazy. As Anna knows, he does some crazy stuff. But I just, it's a mix. It's a mix, but it's probably 95% homebrew now, because you got your stories. You got your stories you want to tell. You got your arcs you want to go over time, and you know, you can throw in something here and there. It's got to be the right place, right time. You know. So, but other than that, it's you got to just have fun with whichever way makes the most sense for you. And you know, I always say this is that there's no, you know, it doesn't matter what edition you play, it doesn't matter what setting you play, it's just as long as you play, you know. So, and that's the best thing, is to play. So I know we're close to our finish time here, and wow, see how fast the time went. We only have one major DC, so geez, and people hung in there, so thank you so very much for hopping back on after some kind of glitch. So let's do some shout outs. Why don't we go around and everyone say what they're going to be doing soon, and give yourself a plug. We'll go right down the list there, and I'll finish it up. So Mikey, why don't you go first?
Yeah, we're Legends of Evantris. There's 7 of us. We play at the table, super heavy role play, wacky voices and stuff. D&D. We have Call of the Feywild on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Legends of Evantris Prime Wednesday 7:30 p.m. and then Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have our epic monthly session of Beneath Dark Wings.
Excellent, Anna.
Well, I have to plug my website and
absolutely
dhmaps.net or annabmeyer.com. It goes to the same website. I post the.
You're all more than welcome to post in the chat whatever you guys want. Yep. Okay, please.
Yep.
I don't have any aversions to that, like someone else made. Please just throw it all in there. You know, yep. We're all. We're all community here. Please just put it all in.
And yeah, I have a patron that I do Greyhawk maps, and I give them away for free. But patrons get a chance to tell me what to do, and they get a chance to see it first and be part of the creative process, and also learn some of the tricks and how to do things. And they get all the resources while doing it, so to speak. So that's the other one. That's basically, and I will have some live streams for my patrons and stuff like that too. So yeah.
And it's being too generous, not generous enough for saying, whatever, my brain's a little fried right now, is that, you know, we've done live streams together where she's actually edited her map for our campaign and placed locations we asked. So the maps that we have now in Greyhawk are custom, and thanks so very much for that. I mean, it's just, you know, yeah, it's a huge thing for our Greyhawk campaign. We have the heraldry on there, we have our city locations, we have all the edits done.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Anna would just say thanks to put that shout out that her maps are actually editable that way for everyone who's in the Greyhawk world. Yep. Absolutely. So
thank you, Anna.
Oh, you're welcome.
Nikki, go for it.
I am basically the same things that all of Mike said. I'm Nikki. I'm from the Legends of Evantris channel. I will be DMing on Tuesday at 7:30. We've got Prime Wednesday, and then that monthly thing that we do will be on Saturday at 2.
Tell me about Strahd, though. When's that start, and how that came about?
Yeah, we're going to be doing. We're going to start off with Death House, which is like the little mini part from 1 to 3, and I believe that's the 28th-ish weekend of May, so it's coming up soonish. And then over sometime starting in the fall, beginning of August, we're going to do every weekend until we complete Strahd.
Beautiful, Brian.
I guess I'm driving to Wisconsin tomorrow.
Real work tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't stream. My D&D game is every Wednesday night. No, I can't say every Wednesday night because we're rotating 2 weeks D&D, 2 weeks Genesis.
Yes,
So-
but you'll be streaming a little bit more with me, so you'll be doing a little bit more after such a successful night last night. Yeah. Mark.
Yeah, on occasion.
Good, Mark.
Hi, I'm DM Marco, as mentioned before. So my campaign is kind of an offshoot, if you will, of Jay's campaign. But essentially, I have a couple of the same group of players, but two different groups that they're playing. So coming up on May the 6th is our next gaming night. We're returning to what is known as the Adventures of Slap, the stupendously lucky adventuring party. They are going to be experiencing a brand new adventure that they are going to get started, and tying in some of the storylines that Jay and I have been talking about as for crossover events.
Yes.
So we play usually from 6 to 9 on every other Monday. So if you have the opportunity to tune in, we'd really appreciate it.
Not this Monday, but next Monday coming up. Not
Correct.
tomorrow, but a week from. Yes.
Yep.
Frank.
So yeah, we have a few things on Nightheart Gaming. Maximum Maidens, which is an all-women group DM'd by my significant other, is every other Friday from 7 to 11 Central Standard Time, GMT -5, and every other Saturday, alternating weekends, is my Dungeons and Dramaturgy group that I'm DMing, that focuses more on a little bit more on role play. Both of those are heavy on the miniatures and terrain. And then we have Tinker Tuesdays, where we're creating terrain and stuff on Tuesdays, every Tuesday evening. And every Thursday evening, we have a nice, relaxing Fantasy Grounds game, which will be DM'd by our DM, Tom, who's extraordinarily interesting. And then for those, I'm just for my geek out, if I need to attend D&D 2019 live as a fan and as a geek in May, but if you happen to see me, say hello. If I'm there, walking the streets, because I want to do that.
Where is that?
So that's in Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
Wizards of the Coast is their third year doing something, and this looks like the one I want to attend. This looks fun.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Tim.
Yes, I'm currently not online gaming with my daughter and some of her friends, using mostly characters that I created rules for air bending, earth bending, fire bending, water bending. If you're not familiar with Avatar, Last Avatar.
Yep. It's pretty cool.
Anybody?
Yeah, it's pretty
anyway,
cool, dude.
So I made rules for that
Awesome.
for D&D. It's kind of like a D&D monk plus elemental bending using martial arts. Kind of second edition Oriental Adventures martial arts rules. So we're running that. I'm running that. I'm also thinking of a Saturday special for Jay and the old City State campaign.
Oh, dude.
That would be great.
That would be
There's
so.
a continuation. There's a continuation because
Dervillia will come back.
notes.
Oh, I haven't
We'll
played
have all the
Dervillia in
notes.
15, 20 years, man.
For the numerous crime
Oh.
lords who are unhappy that you are stymieing their money intake. So
I have a female cavalier in Tim's campaign who has a pink chariot.
and that actually Marco's character made for her, and it has the words "bad bitch."
Yeah, she's
front of it.
nasty. She's like a lawful neutral cavalier. Doesn't take shit from anyone. Yeah, I love that campaign. I love it. So, for me, we are off till Thursday. Mark's not on, so Thursday night we finish Michael Baton's Revenge. I know Rox and I know Naz are all excited about that one because the first part they fought an evil necromancer and they basically dealt with her and they dealt with her undead minions. They're kind of surprised they were on the island. We'll see what happens in that one. It's a Harvey-based adventure, and glory be, Naz says. Good to hear, man. Next Sunday, our Gabbin discussion will be. We're going to talk about Harvey. We talk about Harvey almost like, I don't know, 30 some episodes ago in our talk show. We're going to do Harby Revisited. Brian Blumklotz, who's our heraldry person that Anna knows very well, and he's the head of the Facebook Cannon Fire site, and he's one of the greater gods on the Greyhawk Online site. So if anyone knows Brian, he'll be our special guest next week because he knows everything about Harby. So we're going to talk about Cannon and Harby, and we're going to talk about what we've done in Harby as well. So some other things I want to plug real quick. Our second sponsor, Stratagem. May 9th, Thursday night, all our new subs. Here it is. Here's the DM's Essential Kit that we're going to be giving away. All right. It has tiles. All right. Has a screen along with 5 sets of dice, which are all in separate bags, and a tracker. And this is all courtesy of Stratagem, who makes some great stuff. And we also are giving away some DM screens. Followers will be eligible for those as well. But I got to leave the big juicy stuff to the subs, obviously. So that'll be our Stratagem giveaway for May. And then got a lot of other cool things coming up after we get through Michael Baton. Carlos Lysing has an adventure he wrote for us called Warts and All. We're going to be running that. Then we do our new major event, which is going Defense of the Watchers Towers, which is a major unlimited level Night of York adventure. So you're going to see characters that are 40 years old playing. All right, so we're talking about the oldest characters we have out there. Walt has Schlemmen. I'm trying to convince Tim to come or play remotely to play Leuven the Light-Fingered as Halfling. What level is he, 18th level? I mean, that's super high for us. We usually don't get above 12th. So, that's what we have going on. We have a lot of cool things. This has been fantastic. I wanted to say to everyone, thank you all so very much for hopping on, persevering through that one idiotic disconnect, whatever happened there. Thank you. This was great. I like to consider you all my friends, and let's do some things in the future. I'm not averse to doing crossover stuff between groups. With Will, we did the Greyhawk 16-hour mega stream, and we raised $1,000 for St. Jude that day. And Will had to get on at 6 o'clock in the morning to start it off. We ran, and it was fantastic. Though I'm not, I will do stuff with other channels. Just come to me with ideas. Frank has an idea right now, and I'm like, my head exploded when he told me what he was trying to do. So, but if you can pull this off, Frank, you are. I mean, it would be amazing. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to starting to do some testing on what you have planned.
Yeah.
So, but please come to us. We're all good. I think everyone here's intentions is just to increase the visibility of D&D to everyone, and to grow the whole. It doesn't matter. We're Greyhawkers, but Frank's got his homebrew. You guys at Adventures have your homebrew. It's okay. It's all the game. So
D&D is not mainstream, but it's much closer to the zeitgeist than it used to be.
Yeah, oh yeah, not back in the 70s and 80s, it was kind of taboo, and they had remember that little pamphlet that they would put in the modules saying yeah. What was that called? Oh, thanks, Aluminum. Thank you very much. Taco threw that out to him. Thank you. What was that little folder? Blackleaf. They killed Blackleaf. What was that, Mark? That they put in the insert. You go into a D&D store, open up a player's handbook, and someone had slipped it in there back in the day.
Oh God, I don't remember.
It was something. It was crazy, but
Black Lotus?
Dark Dungeons. That's it. By Sprocketeer knew it. Sprocketeer knows all the old stuff. So this was a blast. It's just crazy stuff. Yeah, Games Workshop. They hit Games Workshop too. Amazing. So thank you for hanging in there. I know we ran a little late.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, this was awesome.
A lot of fun.
Yep.
We will look to do another one 3 to 4 months. Get together a group of people. But big thing I forgot. A couple weeks. I'm trying to get with Celestian. On. He wants to. I want to do a Gabbin about Fantasy Grounds in particular for D&D. So I'm trying to get him on, and I'm going to ask some of the players, people who use Fantasy Grounds, to come on and ask him questions while he's on. So Frank, if you're interested in coming back on for that, Brian uses it. Brian and Duff from Prater's Rejects wants to do it too. So, we're trying to get as many people involved in that one. So that'll be coming up too. All right, guys, I'm going to go to a next screen. I'm going to go to my stratagem screen real quick here. And thank you so very much for coming on. It was a great night, and I got to get this damn headset off. I'm sweating to death here. So
Thank you, guys.
see you all soon.
you.
Have
Nice
a
to
good
meet
one.
you all.
Make sure I hit the right button. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you,
Thanks,
Nico.
guys.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, all my guys. Great night. We'll see you soon. Hit the right button, Jay.
See ya.
I hit the right button.
See ya.
If it switches.
Did you finally hit the right button?
I hit the right
Like
button.
a switch.
Well, we got to take off, but thank you so much,
Thanks
guys.
a
It was
lot.
blast.
Have
Really
a good one.
appreciate it.
See you. Have a good night.
Awesome. Night, guys.
See
Bye.
you.
Yeah, same here. I got to finish getting stuff ready for.
That's it, guys. You can take off.
I know, but I normally like to try to hang out during this.
I know, but you were drinking last night.
Thank you so much, both Frank and Tim. Frank, I love your analysis on campaign building and stuff. And Tim, you explained to me why I like the campaigns I do.
Military, right?
I never thought about it that way, but
You look at the campaign. and
exactly. When you told me, it was like,
tactical,
yeah, that's
strategic
right.
mind,
Yep.
Actually, probably not strategic, maybe operational level.
Tactical
From
kind
the
of,
edge
yeah,
of
and,
the
and
city.
you went
Tactical
through
and
the,
operational.
yeah, indoctrinated for like,
beckons
I spent
destination.
like 29 years something in the military, so I was indoctrinated
is
beyond
Harvard
anything.
Town.
So yeah,
Awesome.
so I was screwed up. Yeah.
So now, hey, Anna,
Yeah.
while you're here, can you
Harbor
say
Town is
something
an
in
all-new
Swedish in your
series
natural
from Miniature
accent?
Building Authority, the leader
Ja,
in
jag kan
tabletop
prata lite
gaming
svenska. Jag
Sweden.
kan prata vanlig svenska
Unique,
som berättar för
flexible
er
and
som
playable.
vanlig
Harbor
svenska.
Town.
Now,
will
is that
take
the
your
accent?
games to
Yeah, that's a typical accent for you.
Yeah, that's my
All right.
Swedish. Yeah.
Because I was in a NATO assignment, and I was at the NATO. It was a course basically about transportation, how about NATO deploys strategically, right? So it was their system they used to coordinate that.
Yeah.
And there was a tall Swedish officer there, this super skinny, super tall dude, like almost like a broom handle mustache. And when he spoke, I was like shocked because he was taking a phone call at the back of the class during a break. And I was shocked because he sounded like the Swedish chef from the Muppets. But I don't like to be stereotypical, but I was just like,
Yeah. But actually, the Swedish
it sounded very much
a
like
little bit. Yeah, that person who used do the voice for the chef, the Swedish chef, have actually listened to a lot of Swede, and before I couldn't understand it, but now when I've lived here for like 9 years and immersed myself in English for 9 years, I